Hi, I'm Noah, and I'm roasting every US president in order, again. Today I'm roasting 8th president and a man who looks like if you catch him, he has to teach you the secret of spinning straw into gold, Martin Van Buren. Van Buren was always interested in politics, but only actually ran for office when his friend, John Peter Van Ness, went back on his word to support Van Buren's preferred candidate because Van Ness wanted to run himself, prompting Van Buren to run as well to deny Van Ness the office. Van Buren was clear. He demanded total loyalty, or he'd turn on you like that. Van Buren's early political career saw him controlling New York State politics through a political machine known as the Albany Regency, which dictated orders to the more well-known corrupt organization called Tammany Hall. Van Buren was a master of patronage, doling out jobs and contracts to win political favor, and always knew how to do best by everyone, except the voters, but who cared about them? Van Buren was a part of the 1820 New York State Constitutional Convention, which did away with property requirements for voting, but Van Buren also made it clear that he was opposed to universal suffrage. Van Buren may have been in favor of eliminating property requirements, but he still wanted voters to own some things, like white skin and male genitalia. Van Buren rose in national politics through his association with Andrew Jackson, eventually becoming Jackson's vice president and owing so much of his career to Jackson that when Van Buren ran for president himself, Jackson picked his running mate for him. Of course, the vice presidency is largely a powerless position, and even when Van Buren was out of it, Jackson still treated him exactly the same. Van Buren's most lasting legacy is probably continuing Jackson's ethnic cleansing policies known as the Trail of Tears, removing Native Americans from their lands in the eastern half of the United States, often at gunpoint. I should clarify, Van Buren had soldiers hold people at gunpoint for him. If it had been Van Buren doing it, he would have gotten his butt handed to him, and the Trail of Tears would have been what he cried back to the White House. Nearly 4,000 Cherokee died during their removal, and thousands more were confined to internment camps, but Van Buren said that although white people started out as aggressors towards the Cherokee, they ended up being their guardians. That's completely bonkers for Van Buren to say when he was personally responsible for thousands of deaths, but I will give Van Buren this: if he were their guardians, he probably would be that incompetent. Alright, please consider donating to help the family that I sponsor in Gaza. If you'd like to support me or watch bonus videos, please check out my Patreon. Then let me know who else to roast, and join me next time when I'll be roasting 9th US president and a man who looks like a mouse with designs on the throne, William Henry Harrison.